the last public business.
For those of you that are coming here for the first time, the Phil is a society about discourse. We do debates of all kinds. We switch comedy with real world issues. For example, we do debates on social inequality and also things that aren't funny. We bring in famous people regularly who have contributed meaningfully to discussion and popular thought. This society has welcomed previously Bernie Sanders, Whoopi Goldberg, and Joe Biden, and now, folks, the mantle is given to you. You look around and ask yourself the same question you asked when you first tried to use a water balloon as a condom. Will I ever fit in here? And the answer, of course, is yes, and very easily. You may shrivel in time, but it will not be easy to leave. You may get an infection. We host a debate in this chamber every Thursday at 7, and afterwards, you can get free wine and so on. Tonight's welcome our fresh cohort of film members who will be hosting the GM Bar, led by our steward Anthony up there. Thing that's ever happened at the GM Bar. He said, Phil, someone had an angel shot. I said, Michael Collins was shot a long time ago. Okay, we need to give him a bit of space, okay? Now, on your journey to this place here, okay, you probably ask yourself at some point, do I join the Phil and the Hiss? What's the difference, okay? That's the point everyone comes to. The best way I can describe the division is two positive force magnets pushing against each other, never to meet. Much like our President Liam and Garda Vetting. It just happen. Tonight, in the Phil, the House has brought to the motion, this House will bring back shame. This debate topic is very important. Every person carries with them some amount of shame. A lot of men have a huge amount of shame about their manhood, too small, too wrinkly, too snubby, and then I asked my girlfriend to stop talking. We do not ask for a better group of people to introduce the motion of this House, guys. On one side, you have modesty, self-awareness, dignity, and on the other, you've got perfect student uni candidates. But guys, that's the last student uni job I'll be making tonight, guys. It's very overdone, okay? I feel like I'm beating a dead mannequin out here. Hopefully, team proposition to bring this House would bring back shame. We have Brendan Ryan, Registrar. Subcommittee and crucial to the Secretary team. Some of these speakers will give you a speech that really makes your time here feel worthwhile, and some of them will be named Gavin Jennings. But guys, he is the host of our newly launched podcast, the Bram Stoker Subcommittee of the Film. Bramcast episode 1 is with Jane Casey, so I highly recommend you look at that. It's on Spotify. Closing for the proposition, we've got our very own Secretary of the Film, Matilda Brew. Opposing the motion of the House tonight, opening, we have last year's main competition winner, Zoya Saheed. We're looking at Train Mooch, and we have a cornerstone of our team registrar over here, and the Elizabethan subcommittee, and closing for the opposition, where there's pressures, there is Michael Hayden. If new debaters here have not yet signed for maidens, I highly recommend you do. It's our main competition to sort of get involved at the start, and he'll tell you all about it if you ask him after the debate. Finally, guys, next week we have a very special visitor. Aaron Sousa has been mentioned, president of Enhanced Games, which is essentially the Olympics with steroids legalized. So, highly recommend you look at it. You can look at further information on the TCD Phil Instagram and Phil Maidens Instagram. Folks, follow GD Plus Shinoda, August follow GD on Phil, and let the debate begin. Thank you.
Tonight is this House will bring back shame. Standing orders are as follows. Speeches are a max of 7 minutes. After the first minute and before the last minute of each speech, which will be signified by a bell, speakers from opposing sides and audience members are free to offer points of information. We encourage general audience participation during our debates. If you hear something you like, you can shout "hear" or "slay." And if you hear something you don't like, you can shout "shame." We prioritise respecting people here, and as a result, if anyone has any concerns or was sent tonight, a senior member of the council across the Bulger will be round at the reception or replay as contactable via email at smcpcfil.com, where is it? There you go. Alternatively, I am contactable at president.smcfil.com. Speakers for tonight's debate is as follows. Speaker composition, we have Brendan Ryan and Alan Jennings. The further through. Speaker opposition, we have Zoe Shahid, Olivia Tranguch, and Morgan Behavior. I call on Zoe Shahid. I call on my friend.
To write this speech, I had to learn a lot about shame. So my first step was to go to my father. My father was a Catholic priest for 15 years, so shame is his area of expertise. So I went up to him one day, and I said, Father, Dad, what is shame? And he turned his head down slightly, and he was clearly thinking, and he said, Son, sometimes I struggle to answer that question, but whenever I'm lost or confused, I just look to you, and I remember exactly what shame is. So he was a lot of help, and I don't even know why he's criticizing me. I mean, he took an eternal vow of celibacy, and then he got married and had 2 children. So, and look, I know he's the only priest who breaks vow of celibacy, but he didn't have to go and do it with a grown woman. So. Anyway, going to my father didn't work. So my next port of call to learn about shame was the Historical Society. I went to one of their chamber debates. The motion was something about the hidden powers of virginity. And I walked into the room, and the first thing I noticed is everyone's posture. I mean, heads were pointed towards the ground, backs pushed over, fingers were twiddling. And the second thing I noticed was the smell. So these people feeling off in a deep shame within themselves. Anyway, the debate begins. The first speaker said the word sex in their speech, and everyone's looking around and trying to find it. The second speaker stumbles up to the podium with just oozing, generally oozing. And the third speaker made one joke in his speech, and this joke violated his equity policy, so he is shot immediately. And the fourth speaker said nothing because of comedy's rule of threes. So, yeah. And I learned that day that there are downsides to shame. Learning people like the hist made me a lot more cautious. And there are other risks to bringing back shame. I mean, if we brought back shame, half of you wouldn't be in the relationships you're in right now. The Phil would probably have half as many speakers. Gavin would not be wearing that outfit. But believe me when I say it is for the greater good. And before we bring back shame to the entire world, we have to start with this room. So I'm going to list shameful things and name their perpetrators. And we're all going to shout shame. So just one time now, everyone, shame. Shame! Brilliant. Michael only looks at his own reflection when he's on FaceTime. Shame! Shame! Elizabeth's shoulders are exposed. Shame! Shame! Liam knows the age of consent in Japan. Shame! Shame! But listen, the final person that needs to be ashamed is all of you. Because you are spending your evening watching a debate. Shame on everyone! Shame! Okay, so I think I've just demonstrated that shame is a tool used to keep people in line. It's like a hammer. But just like hitting people over the head with a hammer, these progressives are saying we shouldn't hit people with shame. So to avoid shame, we take ridiculous efforts. We bring in words that used to evoke shame, so people no longer feel bad, like procrastination. Before, if you procrastinated, that was your own fault, you felt ashamed. Now, I've seen that renamed task paralysis. So it's no longer your own fault. Yeah, you're a victim of your own sickness. And there are lots of examples like this. Like, before, you were called unemployed. Now you're a cryptocurrency day trader. Before, you were called a parasite that added nothing good to the world, and now you're called a landlord. And actual point. I think the issue, no thank you. To be candid, I think the issue is that we have replaced shame with wokeness. I'm joking. But I think there is some merit to that. I mean, just yesterday, this kid was expelled from a school in Texas because he did a reenactment of the shooting of Charlie Kirk. I mean, can you believe that? He was expelled, and all the kid did was shoot someone. Yeah. I mean, that is the point, so you're kind of proving me right. But I'm getting close to the end of my speech here, so I'd like to finish with a nice story. Irish travellers have this tradition of doing call and response storytelling. So it's, I say a happy statement and you all go yay. Yay! And then I say a sad statement and you all go ah. Ah. And I think it's a great way of telling a story. So I'm going to do it here with a story about Oliver's first half Friday. Okay. You're finally at the pub. Yay! There's a line at the door. Aww. So you snort it and walk in. Yay! Inside there is no barman. Aww. So you pour the pint yourself. Yay! None of your lads were inside. Aww. It was only your ladies. Yay! You couldn't buy them a drink. Aww. They were all underage. Yay! It's really great to see so many freshers here today. I hope you enjoy being here, and there's a place at the Phil for all of you, no matter how young you are. Thank you.
And congratulations to all the freshers who've gone into Trinity this week, because this place has no shortage of freakazoids. levels of aura. But then, and like that is okay, but there's a limited amount going around. Meaning all you have to do to be normal is reject embarrassing hobbies, such as, being a cosplayer or anything that Brandon is into. We bring back shame. What then? Well then, all of the weirdos turn into normal, and the value of aura decreases because everyone will a picture. Meaning the price of coolness skyrockets, and in order to be cool now, we need to go above and beyond, and you need to go above and beyond what we normally have to do. And we kind of saw this with the whole performative man trend, right, which Michael will talk about more. Where men were shamed so hard for their wrongdoings, as they should have been, but it got to a point where to be seen as cool or worthy, your existence as a man just wasn't enough anymore, and you needed to then read feminist literature, drink matcha, hashtag #647. And of course, that now is a parody in and of itself, but it is also a herald of what the future will look like if we bring shame back to everyone. Everybody will have to be performative. Everybody will have their own version of a labubu. Everybody will drink matcha. Everybody will have to wear Doc Martens and bring tote bags everywhere, which is gross. No offense to anyone in this room I just described. Everybody will be a carbon copy of each other, but unlike the economy, you can't just print more aura. It is like energy. It cannot be created or destroyed, only transformed or perhaps transformed from one form into another. The second reason we shouldn't bring back shame is that those very weirdos in society that we look down upon are way happier, possibly even more successful than those who are shamed into conformity. We have this culture of shaming, and if you're from a small town in Ireland, you know exactly what I'm talking about, where everyone knows everyone has an opinion on what you wear, what you say, what you post, where people are constantly being told the appropriate boundaries for them. If you're a girl, you can be girly, but posting your get ready with me that's cringe. If you're a writer, you can write a news article or writing fan fiction, that's cringe. If you're opinionated, you can listen to a podcast or two, but being a debater, that's cringe. The people who don't care about being shamed, or didn't care about being cringe, or didn't care about public perception, they make careers out of posting their get ready with me. They built $1 million franchises out of writing Harry Styles fan fiction. They became politicians or actors or your favorite music artists because they logged in and climbed Cringe Mountain. And when climbing Cringe Mountain, the last thing you want is the weight of social shame dragging you down, especially when the same people who are shaming you for doing something artsy are probably on their LinkedIn posting some stupid shit like how I use my breakup to maximize my 401k. Everything at the beginning is cringe. Everything at the beginning is embarrassing. But unfortunately, that's just the price that you pay for success. And there's this future in my mind where if shame is omnipresent and everybody thinks it's inside the box, then the box itself will one day disappear and everyone will live the same cyclical life of boredom. When people are free to stop caring, free to be cringe, free to be whatever they want to be without fear of persecution, then they can climb a mountain and one day reach the metaphorical peak. And I think this summer was the summer that I really internalized this message. It was the summer, I didn't care about posting, I didn't care if somebody saw what I was wearing and thought it was weird. The summer that, my frontal lobe really developed. In the competition world, fewer people put themselves out there. Fewer people follow their dreams, fewer people find out what it truly means to live. And that is why the opposition's world is happier. People are happier. Ladies and gentlemen, I urge you all, kill not the part of yourself that is cringe, but rather the part of you that cringes. Amen.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I just want to start by saying that I do not want to be known as a podcast host. That is something I'm genuinely ashamed of. I just want to clear that up. So, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. And I would say a warm welcome to the freshers, but I think Brendan has that covered. I stood up here this time last year, and I spoke in chamber for the first time, and I was very nervous. This time around, I worked very hard over the summer to make sure that no matter what, I could stand up here and face the possibility of not having any joke of my own. I'm prepared. I decided to cultivate a shame kick. So that in the case of my failure, in the case that no one laughs at my jokes, and that everyone shuffles around nervously looking at each other, I will be secure in my knowledge that I am enjoying it. If this makes you uncomfortable, then I recommend that you laugh at everything I say. Just so I don't get embarrassed and then become ashamed of subsequently become aroused. Which would then lead to more embarrassment and something we want to avoid. So, using shame as a tool is what I'm here to talk about. It is a lost art. We've misplaced shame for such a long time that many people, understandably, are constantly calling for liberation from shame. Liberation from feelings of inadequacy, of feeling like you don't fit in and the pain that causes. This is a noble procedure. No one should feel ashamed of who they are, except for the people that should. What is lost in this pursuit, however, is the very important ability to discern. No shame means no control over your shame. Shame comes naturally sometimes, so employ it to your advantage. Use shame the way I have learned to recently, which is to limit the amount of stupid and hurtful things that you may say. For example, last year, I was waiting for an opportunity to talk at Philthiness about a thought that popped into my head about the Phil and the Hist's crests. I won't go into detail on that. Because I have control. I denied that desire because it was a shameful thought to have. My control over my shame has spared me from ever talking in public about, just for example, how the Phil's crest looks like a vagina, and the Hist's crest looks like an asshole. People these days are too crass. If anyone else had that thought, without my self-control able to see how it's disturbing to think, let alone to say that in front of people. To say how, for example, the O in the word philosophical is literally exactly what the players would be. and that it is so well placed that it surely is not an accident. Honestly, my inner voice, my shame censor, would never allow me to suggest that in the Hist's Instagram profile picture, the colorway that they've used makes the letters around the crest look like the sphincter, and the blue crest in the middle look like the hole in the top. I would never say that. I would never do that. In this day and age, we should demonstrate and celebrate the straight. And we should not let any random person just go off on how, the day they thought about the whole crest thing, they also imagined how this shocking and important revelation could be weaponized by the right to draw moral judgments about the two debating societies, therefore semiologically represents different values. Like, for example, Jordan Peterson. Jordan Peterson doing one of his faux analyses on the two symbols and discussing how Phil as vagina, as gyne, is life, love, and birth, and creation. On this as asshole, is excrement, is waste and filth, and how I would retort that, Jordan! Dr. Peterson, your implicit value judgment in your created binary has dangerously homophobic undertones. To love the right way. Let people love Jordan! So why should you feel shame? Because shame, once accepted, felt, will stop you from humiliating yourself by talking about these silly things. The Phil is an institution that dates back to the 17th century as well above this sort of debasement. If you keep your thoughts and your opinions to yourself, everyone will think you are cool all the time. Yeah, I hope so. But if you get in front of people and start speaking about anything, you risk showing people who you are. College, famously, is a place where you must change yourself in order to fit with what people expect you to be. Again, shame allows us to hide the parts of us that we dislike and opens us to the embrace of contentment and stability. Irish begrudgery and shame foisting is a national institution, as is the immersion. Potato crisps, Irish money, and ignoring whatever Irish people did in India under the Brits. We like a simple shame, a shame that keeps us equal, that dulls any impulse to violence and any desire to share an opinion that might make people uncomfortable. It helps you avoid such thoughts as, did this whole Philthiness crest stuff occur to anyone else at any stage ever? Am I seriously the only person who thought this? If so, what does that say about me? And have I just ruined the visual identity of Trinity institutions for a bunch of freshers? These questions are dangerous to think about, let alone to say out loud. So don't. Learn this early, freshers. Feel the shame and let it guide you. Thank you.
That lay before you, my children. Father, Son, can I get an amen? Amen. Forgive me, Father. I have sinned. It's 8 days since my last confession. What is it, poor child? You do not know the shame I am. I am full of shame. Poor my child. You see, I went to collect them eggs from them hens, and I opened the door to the coop, and there she were, giving birth, right there on the bits of straw, making these big noises. One could say that is sacrilege. Interrupt a private and sacred act. God have mercy. Then the cop walked in, and I started calling it names like, "You squirmy little bastard." Started pecking at my shoe. Then I knew we'd getting violent with it, and I started choking them chickens. God have mercy. Yes, love thy neighbor, even if they are a cock. Is there anything else you are to be ashamed of? Yes, of course. Tell me, my child. I stole cow dung from the farmer up in the mountain. What are you doing that for? Thou shalt not steal. The 8th commandment. How will you make amends? Well, I suppose I can't return the shit down, can I? I used it. You seem to have no shame at all. You're always said, "Why so serious?" She injected my face with Botox. I cannot make any other facial expression. I presume there's more you're ashamed of. Oh yes, I call her other names. What do you call her? You dirty slapper! You bastard! You whisper into my red dirt to fuck off! Anna, don't be talking like that. Honor your mother. She is your first person. You are awful. Do chickens masturbate, father? Many of us, your body is going through some changes. Yes, indeed. When I woke up this morning, I was stiff as a plane. A little splinter between my legs. And you've been interfering with yourself. I thought you were made of cloth, not all you need. If you're wondering, though it may not look like it, this boy grew up to be Brenton Ryan. Well, it's good you're talking about it, son. Feeling and experiencing shame is what makes us human and approachable. Have you had any sex, Father? None. Oh God, Father, you're a slimy one. Which none? Go on, shame me. I know I deserve it. I am defective, immoral, wrong, bad, very bad. No, I won't. No more shame. I know there's goodness in your heart. The soul of a child is the purest of all. While yours may be exceptionally tainted with sin, not one of us is perfect. Let us de-shame you. Shame asphyxiates around our throats and prevents us from moving onwards as we become mired in it. If we are human, then by nature we make mistakes. We don't always know right from wrong. We're all at different places in terms of learning. Ideally, we learn from our mistakes. Shame interrupts. Making mistakes is not dumb. Dumb, dumb, dumb. Can I get it? Amen.
They've done their best to paint a beautiful picture of a shameless world. They've sold you on a world where shame is replaced with freedom, with acceptance, with a kind of sexual fluidity that makes you think maybe it'll happen. images. A world without shame is far less exquisite oil painting, and far more blurry Snapchat dick pic. But rather than shrink away from that image, I would say that rather than scroll past, delete, chat, block, we should zoom in. Consider the folds, the wrinkles, why this shameless world is the cesspool that it is. And the truth is that the world without shame is a very lonely one. Shame is the fear of judgment. In a city of 1 million, in a college filled with fashion-taught lurkers, this is not an irrational fear. In this speech, I would like to explore that fear, to consider why we feel it and what it can do for us. But that's a lot. And for most of you, this is the first time we've met. So, I'd like to break the ice, make you feel a bit more comfortable by telling you about myself. My name is Matilda. I'm 20 years old. I am a member of Trinity's worst and only improv troupe. Sometimes, when I look in the mirror, it's not my own face, but that of Lena Dunham that I see. Recently, I watched a Charlie's Angels movie, and I got it in my head that I could hit the town, that I could talk in a low, raspy voice, that I could chat people up. I found myself talking to a tattooed man at a bar. I leant, and bravely, shamelessly, I asked him if he could guess if I had any tattoos. Intriguing. Dirty, even. But the dizzying clarity of seeing yourself through another person's eyes fell upon me when he replied oh so quickly, yeah, the triangle thing from Harry Potter. I knew. He meant the Deathly Hollows. Oh, the shame. And however mortifying that was, however much shame blossomed in that moment, at least I knew that this emotion was not wasted. In seeing myself through the dull eyes of this semi-attractive stranger, I came to know myself more deeply. When we go without shame, we escape that chilling feeling of another person's eyes on us. But we also rob ourselves of another person's gaze. You've heard that letting go of shame will let you know yourself fully, will allow you to embrace the truest version of yourself. But the truest version of yourself does not live alone in this world. Zoya says to kill the part of yourself that cringes, but this will not kill the cringe that comes from outside. Shame is not intrinsic. Your interactions with others define you just as clearly as your time spent alone. Writing in your diaries and reading from incognito tabs does not a person make. Try. The moments where you are most ashamed are simply a byproduct of your interactions with others, and that is what makes them valuable. Now, the opposition are correct about one thing. A world free from shame is possible, but this is not the world that you want to live in. You are free to dance, speak, dress like no one's watching. But I'm sorry to say that they are. The world without shame is not the real world, and the you without shame is not the real you. The world without shame is the world of the screen, the world of the subreddit, the world of the darkened room where Olivia found that puppet. Shame runs rampant on the street. It runs rampant on Phil Council and through Freshers' Fair. Anywhere that anyone gathers, shame will be there. Because shame
People are too ashamed to speak up in tutorials or ask their S2S mentor a simple question. John here is too ashamed to wear his Blackrock College graduation ring. And he is forced instead to wear it in dank caves, guys, this side of the table. Wants to keep him in that cave. Please let him out. People are too ashamed to join Trinity's Rifle Society because they don't want to seem like the next Charlie Kirk. Maybe it was not safe in the SU anymore. The only place I don't see shame is on this side of the table. The proposition has suggested that there is an absence of shame that needs to be brought back. And I hate to sound like your mom, but maybe it is that damn phone. We are so ashamed to show a genuine form of interest or authenticity out of fear of being posted online and talked about in a group chat. We've developed a surveillance state where we're all too afraid to be cringe, right? It's like we're in a panopticon, a circular prison where a watchtower lies in the middle. The fact that we could be being watched all the time makes us think we are being watched all the time. Our inner shame monitors our every movement. The only people I want surveilling me is Palantir and the CIA, not shame. Being cringe is the greatest crime on the internet, and is shamed wherever it is perpetrated. Your interests are now a hard watch, and you are just a walking it. So we hide behind our masks that we've collectively decided are normal and cool enough without being true to yourself. This is an environment that has given rise to a sense of performance. With that, the dreaded performative males that I talked about. We all know them. Some of us even are them. Man who hides behind the safety of wired headphones and a copy of the bell jar book at the same time somehow. For fear someone might peer in and see a boy who just wants you to take his Alex G cover seriously. There is no amount of open up that can stop me from seeing the real you guys. But this is not exclusive to men. We hear a lot of talk about women's rights, but I want to take a moment for women's wrongs. Performative women. I see you pretending to watch F1. I've also seen Carlos Sainz Jr. take off his helmet after a race. Okay? There's no way a car going in circles for 4 hours can be as entertaining as that. Okay? Passion will be eclipsed by shame, a nonchalant attitude. We don't want to enjoy anything anymore for fear of being called an NPC. So we push it all down. Shame can fester inside of us and bubble up the worst parts of ourselves to the top. Short kings are now agronomes. People who are simply just passionate about animal costumes are now called furries. Shame can bring people together. Laughing at these people with your mates can be fun, but that is easy. Being yourself is the greatest thing you can do today. But being genuine and cringe together might bring you closer together than you think. My one piece of advice is be shameless to yourself. Go into your first year of college with an open mind and a willingness to embarrass yourself. Embarrassment is an underexplored emotion. We avoid it like the plague. Don't dance like nobody's watching, but dance knowing somebody may be watching. Nowadays, genuine self-expression is the most radical act. If a man reads feminist literature in an empty cafe with no one to see him, did he really perform? The only people who should be ashamed of themselves are anyone going to Freshers' Ball instead of this, and the McDonald's employee who turned Luigi Mangione in for a McChicken. And just Brendan Ryan generally. So be shameless. The more we allow ourselves to show the true parts of ourselves, let it come to the surface, the more we feel like ourselves. Following your passions may lead you down a better path. Brendan's dad left the priesthood to make children and not just touch them. You did call my mother prostitute. And plug maidens.
Everybody who agrees with the proposition, this house should bring back shame, will say aye. And everybody who disagrees will say no. Alright, in a moment, for the proposition.
Aye.